There you go, brothers. Welcome to the Bucket of Hairy Arseholes, the Calorie Hole boat. That's the second bilge pump that failed. I've already replaced the one that's midships, and now I've just put in a brand new one and tested it. It's an automatic one, it goes. So now we've got two bilge pumps. We've got a backup. Finally got round to that. Yes, I'm still working on it. This video is not about bilge pumps, about the boat this time. It's actually about something else that some of you will be holding in your hand right now. If you look down there though, you will see there is that little white thing. It's an automatic one, and I have tested it. I poured a bucket of seawater on there, and she works beautifully. And yes, I've wired it up wrong. Those of you that will have noticed, there's a battery. It's hardwired straight to the battery. And no, there's no fuse there. Yes, the boat could catch fire. To tell you the truth, if that one there has to go as well as the midships one, then the boat's probably going to sink before it catches fire. But I will put a fuse in that. Thank you very much for everybody that's given me advice on this, and some bloody good advice too. I mean, let's look at the reality here. I don't know shit about anything, and particularly shit about engines. I'm one of those guys that's a little bit good at this and a little bit good at that, but I'm not particularly mechanically minded, and I'm doing the best I can. I might go in the warehouse to have this conversation. So, I did a video just recently called, I forget what it was, it's my son and I talking. I was basically saying, the video was called, you've got one of two choices to make. In life, you have something that happens that's really hard to you, get an injury or something, and it stuffs you up. You might lose a leg, you might lose a tooth, you might lose an eye. Something happens, we all have loss, and one or two things can happen to you. Oh, is this phone going to stay here, or is it going to be... That's not going to work. I'm trying to find a place to put the phone. You can choose to be a victim, or you can choose to grow wise from it and create wisdom from it. And I know all the time this theme kind of comes up on social media and stuff, and people, there's all these memes and stuff, but they really don't help you much. I mean, they're good and they're interesting, but the thing of actually acting on something is so difficult, it's so hard, and sometimes it just takes a bloody lifetime to work it out, and I sure as hell haven't worked it out yet. I'm still getting there, but I've come a long way from what I used to be. I wake up content and happy most mornings. If I haven't had too much pain the night before, or drunk too much grog, and generally get through the day and feel pretty okay. So let's look at the other form of dopamine. What I was talking about in that video was I was saying that those that choose not to learn from their injuries, the things that are inflicted on them when they're very young, that use it as an excuse, that drown it with excessive everything, excessive drugs, excessive alcohol, excessive cannabis, excessive sex, excessive gambling, excessive working, excessive training, excessive anything just to stop them from having to stop and look at the problem. Dopamine is the thing we try to flood our bodies with. For me, it was going womanizing and gambling and sex, drugs and rock and roll when I was in Europe working as an entertainer. And when I came back home and still had things to process, it was obsessive hunting. I was hunting all the time. I mean, you only need so much meat. Once you get a kill, you shouldn't, in theory, have to hunt for really until the meat runs out. This is one thing about us human beings, is we excessive with everything. And on that note, people talk about the world population being too big, and it's not sustainable. But the reason is because we're greedy. We waste so much. We don't just hunt and catch one pig. We've got to go out the next day and hunt another one, or we don't just take one fish for our dinner. Sometimes we'll feed our friends and family, but some people just continually do that, and there's wastage, and you see it on the beach. You see the heat, you see the wings, you see all this wastage going on because we overconsume and we overeat and we over everything, and that's going to be the downfall of man. So the other form of dopamine I didn't mention when I did that video, which is probably the biggest one, is your phone, and it's apps like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm saying all the ones where you scroll, because now TikTok started with the first 1 minute videos of people's highlights. So the person with the phone has this impossible thing going to their mind all the time. It's the biggest boar, the biggest stag, the biggest kingfish, the biggest anything, and it just goes on and on and on, and you're getting bombarded with this dopamine, and it's addictive because you can find the most beautiful everything. If a young lady twerks her ass and she's got a beautiful face, then she'll get more hits than an average looking girl. and consequently you end up with just all the good looking girls getting the most views and getting played the most, giving young men an unrealistic picture of this life and what's out there. It's too hot in there, I'm coming out here. So what else does it do? Well, it destroys something that's taken us thousands and thousands of years to do. I mean, how long's man been around for? I don't know, 300,000 years? I don't know how long we've been, like Homo sapien, how long have we been around for? As soon as we could create fire, as soon as we could make fire, it changed our whole psyche, because for that moment onwards, if it was winter time, we didn't have to like huddle up and just try to save body temperature. We could sit by the fire and draw energy from it and keep warm, and we could contemplate, we could pontificate, we could tell stories, and that's exactly what we started doing. As our speech developed, for thousands of years we've been telling stories. It's only the last few hundred we've had radio, and then we got television, and then we got the internet. So the stories that you get now are all new. This is all brand new. And we learnt to follow stories. And the old hunter would recount his battle with the buffalo, or the lion, or the gazelle, and the young hunters would all listen, and they would learn. The young hunter would talk about the pitfalls of hunting and the things you should not do and the things you should do to have a successful hunt, and relaying that to the young man. They'd be hanging on to every word, and they'd be concentrating, and they'd go to bed that night with a story of a hunt, a successful hunt, or a story of a successful fishing mission, or a story of beating the enemy and how it was done, and they would gain knowledge. Now this has completely been lost right now. I look after a lot of young men, and I was talking to a mother this morning saying her son is addicted to TikTok, and I said, is he watching my videos still? Because that's how I met through. She said, no, he's not. He used to, but now he's just on TikTok all the time. Well, the reason he's on TikTok all the time is because TikTok is highlights, highlights, highlights. It's not a reality. My video is a story, and sometimes it has a highlight, and sometimes we don't get a kill. Everybody wants the highlights, and it's an unrealistic picture. I had a young guy I was looking after, and he wanted to go to Australia because you can catch pig after pig after pig out over there. And I said to him, mate, that will get very boring after a while. Running down pigs with a truck and killing them. Yeah, it's fun, but hunting for one particular boar with dogs and learning to track it and reading the sign and keeping on the right side of the wind and all the stuff that goes around learning to be a skillful hunter, it's much more rewarding. I still hunt the Golden Downs forestry here when I've got people all the time offering me private blocks, because I like the challenge of that elusive pig that everyone else has tried to catch. I like testing myself, and I like testing my dogs. So what these apps have done with this scrolling is they've started to destroy this mechanism that we've taken thousands of years to use, and that is to concentrate and follow a storyline. And I can see it with my other channel, my Clay Tall Stories channel. When I used to post a hunting video back in the old days, it would start off in the truck, talking about where we're going, introduce the people, and it would lead up to the dogs, and then we might get a pig. It might be a pig as big as your boot, or it might be a boar if we were lucky. And at the end we'd cook it. Now when I look at the analytics on YouTube, it shows you the retention time, and it shows you the peak. Every time you can go straight to where they got the pig, it peaks there, and then it's dropped off. That's all the young guys just wanting to see, that little highlight, to get that little bit of dopamine, and then they'll go back onto TikTok or to Instagram or Facebook, and they keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. It teaches young men how not to have relationships with women. It teaches young men how not to follow a storyline, and young girls for that matter. It's a false form of dopamine, and it's addictive, and it's damaging. Not only children are doing it, I know adults that do it too. They scroll all day long when they're in their free time, and it's not good for the psyche. You're not learning how to follow a story. You'd be by far better to pick up a book by Wilbur Smith, or someone who's a really good writer, Stephen King, and follow a story. That's what we evolved doing, and that's where we learn, that's where we gain the most. But brains have been damaged. And I talked a while ago about China. They turn the internet off, I think, 8 o'clock at night, and someone said, well, that's control. Well, maybe they know something we don't know. Maybe it is control, but maybe also they're realizing a lot of their young people in school aren't doing so well anymore, because their brains are constantly being flooded with this false dopamine, and then they get in this world, like out on a boat like this or out at sea with me, and it's impossible to replicate it. One of the things with young guys that happens, it never used to happen, and I've noticed it in the last year, as we get out in the bush and I say, you having a good time? He goes, yeah, when are we going to catch a pig? Well, so we're hunting, mate. We're hunting right now. This is what hunting is. We don't necessarily do catch a pig. It's called hunting. It's not called catching. We're hunting for one. This is what the hunt is. This is it right now. You and I, we're hunting. We're looking for sign. Yeah, but when are we going to get the boar? Where will it be? Will it be down there? They are so impatient. They want instant gratification, and life is not like that. So when they go out into the real world and they start to hunt, they're going to get a kick in the balls. They're going to find that the reality with everything in life is that it's actually, to get something is, you need to follow a story to learn. You need to concentrate on what your elders teach you and apply that, and then you might have success or you might not. So that form of dopamine is just one I wanted to bring to the table, talk to you guys about. And if you have children, I would be very, I'd give them a limited time on, say, TikTok or anything where you're scrolling, or Instagram or Facebook. I'd say, okay, 20 minutes a day or half an hour of scrolling, that's all you get. And I would enforce that until they were old enough to know. And I would also educate them on the dangers of it and the damage of it, because it just does not do them any favours at all. Again, there'll be some people that have watched this video that are already switched off by now because they don't want to hear it, because they do it themselves. And that's when you get to that stage, that's when you know you've got an addiction. That's when you don't want to hear the truth. I've done it. I've looked at all those apps. I've actually got a TikTok account. I use it for doing songs on music because it's got some features, and that's when I found out how many young people spend time on it. It was actually one of my young guys that I looked after, young Spencer, that put me onto TikTok, and I created an account, and I actually make a little bit of revenue off it selling music, because I do little short songs on it, but I sure as hell don't spend all day sitting on it, because it's unreal. It's bullshit. And that app, I particularly don't like that app, because if you put a hunting video on it, they flag it straight away, even if it's just showing how to skin a deer or gut a pig. It's gone. So that's the other thing. It's also a false world. It teaches us unreality. Yes. Anyway, that was my talk about dopamine. Thanks for hearing me out. Check on someone that might be mining for dopamine too much and need help to look at something that's more important, so they can go in their true direction, because watching other people's highlights all day is not a life. It's going out and creating your own highlights. Go steady. We'll see you next video. See you later.